Welcome, everybody, to our Zoominar. My name is Devin DeVries. Our presenter today is Henry DeVries. He runs a company called Indie Books International. We work with independent consultants who want to attract more high-paying clients by marketing with a book and a speech. As a speaker, Henry teaches business leaders how to persuade with a story. In fact, in the last 10 years, he has ghostwritten, edited, and authored over 300 business book projects, including his bestseller from McGraw-Hill, How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett, now in Chinese. He's also paid by Forbes.com to write a weekly column on business development. As a result of working with us, people report they get more impact and influence. On a personal note, Henry is a baseball nut. He has visited 44 Major League Baseball parks and has 2 more before he touches them all. And he is stoked that the Dodgers won the World Series last night. Please welcome Henry DeVries.
Thank you very much, Devin. I appreciate that. So the year is 2015. The place is Orange County, California. And I get a call from someone in Orange County. He's Bill Wooditch. I wish you could have been there when Bill Wooditch called. I didn't know who Bill Wooditch was. And Bill Wooditch is actually a big deal, but I didn't know that. But he realized it and he was nice. And he said, you don't know who I am, but I know the 4 magic words in the English language. I said, well, that's interesting. What are the 4 magic words, Bill? And he said, I know a guy. I've been calling around for this thing I want. And people said, I know a guy, Henry DeVries, call him. And I said, well, that's a lot of pressure. But what is this thing that you want, Bill? He says, I want to be a best-selling author and speaker. I said, oh, wow, that's a mountain you want to climb. Well, Bill convinced me to drive from San Diego up to Orange County to talk with him. He convinced me by paying me $1,000 to spend the afternoon with him. And I laid out what that mountain climb would be to be a best-selling author and to be a paid professional speaker. And Bill was at a crossroads. Bill was 58 years old, and he had created this big successful company that does commercial insurance. So if you see the big construction projects, he did insurance for commercial construction projects. That was his company. And he had 100 people working for him. And they said he was the most motivational boss they had ever had. They said he taught us when we didn't know anything how to become these problem solvers and make 6 figures. But here's the kicker. Bill's such a nice guy. If we didn't have the right clothes to wear when he hired us, he helped us get the right clothes. And when I spoke to Bill, he said, yeah, it's great that I've motivated these 100 people, but I didn't get what I wanted in life. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I never found her. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I looked for her for decades. I never found her. He was talking about the right woman to marry. And he said, so when I didn't find her after all those years, I just poured all my energy into the business and I made these people my family, but I didn't get what I wanted. I said, what is it that you want? Bill said, I want to motivate 10,000 people at a time. I said, oh my gosh, Bill, it's not a mountain you want to climb. You want to climb Mount Everest. But there was something about his passion, about his burning desire to do that. And I said, okay, well, if you want to climb Mount Everest, I'm on board. I'm your Sherpa. Let's go. Let me tell you, it was not easy. The first thing was he was a blogger and he gave me 90,000 words. It about killed him when I told him not these words, or at least not 2/3 of these words. We settled on 35,000 words for the book. And then I got him a speaking engagement at a C-level audience. It was at Qualcomm, a Fortune 500 company, 100 C-level executives in the audience, and Bill spoke. And one came up to me afterwards and said, oh, wow, that Bill is dynamic. Bill is passionate. I have no idea what Bill is talking about. We had to refine the messages and the stories. The messages and the stories. You need to be a storyteller to attract high-paying clients. Your writing tells stories. When you're speaking, you tell stories. When you're giving a Zoominar like I'm giving, you tell stories. Well, we determined that Bill's story was always forward. I asked him out to dinner, and he picked up the check, but we went to a nice steakhouse, and I said, your book is about overcoming fear, that fear never sleeps. And you have a motto, always forward. Talk about that. Well, we got him print interviews and he refined the message. We got him radio interviews about the book, refined the message. We ran a Kindle campaign and made the book a bestseller, and that got some traction and kept building. We did local TV. Then our big break came. We got Bill on the Steve Harvey show, and not for 5 minutes or not as a panelist. It was 45 minutes devoted to always forward and helping Steve's audience to get past the fear in their life. Steve Harvey liked him so much, he made him a regular. He's appeared 3 times. Now, I have to tell you, no, 10,000 people were not in the studio audience that day. But 2 million people were in the television audience that day. And Bill graduated to a McGraw-Hill book. He used those words we saved and turned it into a bestseller with McGraw-Hill. He's become a very dynamic, sought-after speaker. He's now speaking for $15,000 a speech to audiences of 500, 1,000 at a time. And I called him up. This took 2 years. I called him up. I said, let's have dinner again. And no, David Goldman's on this call. No, David, I didn't take him to McDonald's. And no, Susan Trivers, I didn't take him to Denny's and say it was his birthday. I took him to the actual steakhouse that he took me. And I did pick up the check this time. But I said, Bill, what I wanted to say is, you proved it to me. You proved it to me that you were willing to climb that mountain. And he got all choked up. And he said, those were the words I wanted to hear most of all. Bill gave me permission to tell you that story with 2 caveats. The first caveat is, I used to say he was making 10,000 a speech. I had to raise it to 15,000 a speech because that's what he's making now, 5 years later. And 2, I had to tell you that when I invited him out to dinner the first time, I'm Dutch, I'm cheap, I let him pick up the check. So that was important to him. But the moral of the story is, I know a guy. You want to have people say, I know a guy, I know a person, I know a woman, when they're asking around. And that's what this call is about, how to be that person. And what are the things you need to talk about to be that person? I talked about storytelling, we'll declare more. And I don't know if you looked at the list, I kept it just to 4 things today, but I wanted to show you something. This has been on my desk. I'm 63, it's been on my desk since I was 18 years old. It was a gift given to me. You can see it, it's a piece of cake. And in front of the cake is a bug. And the bug is obviously very full. It's got a bellyache because of how much cake the bug ate. And this piece of cake is like 10 times bigger than this bug. And then the little saying that comes with it is, always take on more than you can possibly handle, or you'll never do all that you can do. So I think you can climb mountains. I've helped people climb mountains. I think you have it in you. If you want to climb that mountain, let me tell you how to climb the mountain. One, and you know I'm a person who helps people write books, I just want you to figure out the title of your next book and declare on social media that you're writing a book. Tell the world that you're writing a book. Now, it should be the right book. I have seminars and workshops and master classes where I teach on how you can figure out what the right book is for you. Because if you're trying to get people to be a leadership student of yours and executive leadership, and you write a book about fly fishing, you didn't write the right book. Unless it's leadership lessons from fly fishing. We're just publishing a book right now called Leadership Lessons from the Pub by Dr. Irvine Nugent. And Dr. Nugent is out of Washington, D.C., and he's a sought after executive leadership coach. He grew up in a pub in Ireland. His parents were the proprietors of the local pub. The story is very gripping at the start because at the age of 5, his father gathered him up out of bed, came down from the pub downstairs, got Irvine out of bed, took him out, and just before the pub exploded, the IRA had put a bomb in the pub. And his dad opened up 2 weeks later in a tent. He had that drive that you're not going to put me out of business. Nobody's going to put me out of business. Great story. What are your stories? You probably don't have one where your life was saved from an exploding pub, but you probably have good ones where you've taken clients from mess to success. Those are going to be chapters in the book. You're going to post chapters of your upcoming book on LinkedIn. Use your LinkedIn profile. That's where, we always said people Google. I had a strange sense I was being Googled. Well, when they Googled you, they're going to line up they're going to land on your LinkedIn profile. So declare on your LinkedIn profile that you're writing an upcoming book. I have many organizations who want to book speakers, authors, before their book comes out, because they want a sneak peek, the first look at something that other people don't have. So you use that declaration of writing a book to get booked as a speaker. And as somebody who books speakers, let me tell you, we just moved to Zoom this year. That's all that happened. We went virtual. Meetings are still taking place. Conferences are still happening. Training is still happening with companies, just it's online. And I get it. One of my authors said, I've been doing that, Henry, and I just don't like it as much as when I'm in front of live people. I get it. I don't like it as much as when I was in front of live people. I would much rather be in the same room with all of you today doing this. However, Zoom has been a boom for us, the Zoom boom. The reason is we're reaching people from all parts of the country. And we're doing 2 events a month, plus training and other things. We're reaching people we couldn't have reached. So how's our business doing? Well, we're not Zoom or hand sanitizer or toilet paper, but we're doing fine. And consultants we work with can do fine too if they adopt these things. Now, you're declaring your book. Well, you need to declare it to the world. And one way to do that is through a small scale seminar. And I say Zoom. You can do your other platforms, but I think Zoom won the war this year. So whenever somebody wins the war, like Microsoft wins the war, or Constant Contact wins the war on sending emails out, I just get in line. I like to go with the most popular choice. It's easier for people. I know there's some techie clients I have that go, well, that's actually not the best. There's this other program. Yeah, the world knows Microsoft Excel. We use 10% of our brains, scientists tell us, and we use 5% of Microsoft Office. It's plenty robust. It can do all the things you need to do. All to say, get on Zoom, do Zoominars, small scale seminars. Now, people get afraid. You get afraid, oh, what if I go and do a Zoominar and nobody shows? It's happened to me. It's not the end of the world, but there are plenty that they do show. And just the fact that you're inviting people builds your brand. Well, let me introduce Devin DeVries. And I won't do a full introduction of Devin because she's going to work it into what she shares with you on how you can put on small scale seminars. Devin, take it away.
Thank you, Henry. Yeah, we are really big on the small scale seminar strategy. We have seen it be a game changer for our business, and we've helped our clients use it to grow their businesses. And just quickly, what we mean by a small scale seminar is typically you're looking at 5 to 10 people. with the idea being that by keeping it small, you're able to have quality interaction built into your presentation. And that allows you to connect with people, and that will then attract them into hiring you. So, especially if you're in person, if you have 5 to 10 people in a room, you can usually remember that many names, so that you want to be able to have a personal connection. And then usually it's a no cost or very low cost event. The idea is to generously give your time and information on whatever your area of expertise is. And then once they kind of get a chance to experience you and see your style, then they're going to want to hire you for the specifics of, okay, how do you do that in my situation, in my company? So that's the kind of philosophy behind the small scale seminar. Now, the next big question is, how do you fill one? And I'll tell you a quick story of one of our authors, Michael Haig. So Michael is a brilliant storytelling expert out of Hollywood. He does script consulting. He's the kind of person that, Will Smith calls him up for advice on his next project. He is amazing at what he does. And he spent years teaching workshops and classes to screenwriters and fiction authors. But he came to us a couple years ago because he wanted to pivot and teach storytelling techniques to business people and how they can use that same kind of formula to tell stories in their speeches and in their marketing materials to attract clients. So he came to us and we helped him publish his latest book, Storytelling Made Easy. And then his next question was, okay, well, how do I get in front of these people? And we said, host your own small scale seminar. Now, Michael was hesitant to do this. Up to this point, he had always been brought in to do workshops, or he was affiliated with a college. So he never really had to fill a room himself and market his own event. So I said, okay, we'll teach you our LinkedIn strategy. We love LinkedIn for business connections. It's an amazing tool, primarily because all of that information we all put into our profiles is searchable. So what we're able to do with LinkedIn is figure out, who is our target audience for this event, and then we can filter that down and send direct invitations to people. So it is a one-to-one invitation strategy that we're doing. So for Michael, we decided on a format for his event. Luckily, his Storytelling Made Easy is a great title for the book, and it worked really well for the workshop as well. So we went with that, and we decided to focus on marketing professionals as our target. And he was going to be in Portland for an event. So what we decided to do was he just added one day on to his trip in Portland, rented a meeting room at a hotel, and we used that as the location. And what we do on LinkedIn, and I'll just give you the real quick overview, but if you want the detailed and some examples of the messages, I'm happy to send that after. But it's basically a two-step process. First is sending a connection invite. So once you've identified who these people are as your target, when you go to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, you can just add a quick note to it. And it's just one sentence, which is, would you be open to an invitation to be my guest at an event I'm hosting for, in this case, marketing professionals in Portland? And that was it. It's a real kind of soft knock at the door approach. If they accepted the connection, we followed it up with a simple 1-paragraph invite to his no-cost event, had a link to his website with more details. So again, the purpose is to be, non-salesy, it's anti-spammy. It was a free event. We were giving information that would be helpful to them away. Now, like I said at the beginning, our recommendation for events is 5 to 10. But Michael, like I said, he's used to these big lectures. So he gave us a little pushback and he wanted 24 people in the room. So, okay, what we like to do for events is kind of set target numbers. So there's kind of the survival number. How many people do you have to have a go? What's the realistic target that we're going for? And then what's our optimistic stretch goal? So, okay, we'll do the 24 as the optimistic goal. We're shooting for around the 10 to 12. And the reason you want a few more RSVPs is because if you'll always have a couple people not show. So if we want 5 to 10 in a room, we need 8 to 14 RSVPs. So we set those goals. We hit LinkedIn, as many of those target people we could find in the Portland area. And in the end, we actually got 23 people to sign up for the event, which was fantastic. 19 people showed on the day. And then the very last thing that we always make sure that you do if you're doing an event is to have some sort of offer at the end, a way to follow up with them. Again, we recommend this as a no cost, simple step for them. So for us, we offer a 30-minute strategy call called a book chat where, we'll talk about your goals for a book, answer any questions about writing or publishing you have. For Michael, we came up with a storytelling strategy call. So they could have 30 minutes for free with him to run through a story, ask any questions they want to, get some feedback. And we had that on a form, if you're interested, check that. And at the end of the event, 18 of the 19 people had checked, yes, I want that follow-up call. Now, the 19th person, it turns out, was his sister-in-law. So we actually count it as 100% success rate. And within a week of having the event, he had somebody hire him for his full fee. And it covered the cost of the trip and the marketing budget just with that one client. But he still had 17 other follow-up calls, several of which also ended up hiring him. So that kind of shows you the power of these events and the chance to experience you in what to them is a kind of a safe environment, because it's not a one-on-one call yet, it's a group seminar. And so that was an example of an in-person one, but like Henry said, we've been doing this strategy in our business for 6 years. And at the beginning of this year, we had to move everything virtual, and it's still working the same. We're still able to use LinkedIn to fill the room. We still give the same offer at the end of each seminar we do. And that leads to follow-up calls and eventually clients. So that's the strategy in a nutshell. Like I said, I'm happy to send like a white paper with details and example messages if you're interested. You can just email me. I'll pop my email in the chat. And with that, we'll turn it back over to Henry.
Oh. Just did it, Dev. Oops, there it is. Thank you. So Devin said I was a baseball nut. There's something called inside baseball. It's the insider's view. So aficionados will talk about different things. But I want to give you an inside view of some of the things that Devin said, because it relates to you. Our brand is generosity. Our brand is generosity, and we want your brand to be generosity too, because generosity is the killer app, let me tell you. So Devin, I just put it in the chat. So you just send her an email and say LinkedIn white paper or anything like that, and she'll send you a white paper that details all the things to do. Now, if you want any of my books, like Marketing with a Book or Persuade with a Story, my new one, Client Attraction, Chain Reaction, send me an email. Devin, maybe you can put that in the chat box for me. So send me an email and I'll send you a free copy of my book. I'll send you, a $20 book, no charge. We have other white papers we give away. This session, we're not charging for. She mentioned a game changer for us was when we added the strategy calls, which we guarantee are not selling calls. We call it a no selling zone. You have to really ask us questions and say, please, give me the sales information. We won't frustrate you then. It's not a game we're playing. But let me give you the psychology behind this. And there's an old story about Newt Rockne. Newt Rockne was the coach of the Notre Dame football program and over 100 wins before he died tragically in a plane crash. There's a famous story about Newt Rockne would post signs saying, secret practice, public invited. So you could come in and watch them practice at Notre Dame. And other teams sent somebody to scout them at these practices. There's even a story where a scout missed his train and Newt Rockne gave the West Point scout a copy of the Notre Dame playbook. And a sports writer heard about this and said, well, what are you doing, Newt? Is this some kind of psychological warfare you're playing with them? And he goes, oh, no, it isn't at all. He says, it's not the plays that win, it's the execution. So we're happy to give people all kinds of information how to do this. The more people we help in general, the more want to hire us to help them with the execution. And if there's a do-it-yourselfer who can take the information and succeed with it, we're great. I've been written up by strangers, so I don't know, who said how great all my information was. And they weren't a client, but they'd taken the free stuff I gave them, or the books you write, it's not free, they pay for it. But we like you to have a copy of your book on PDF. I was telling David Goldman, who's on the call, one of our authors, about our strategy where I send copies of my book out from Amazon.com. Yeah, it could be cheaper for me, but it's just easy for me to go on the Amazon website, enter somebody's address, and push send, and they get a gift copy of the book from me in the mail. It doesn't cost me that much more of it. It just looks a little more generous than sending them the PDF copy. So what could that be for you? I see David Goldman, I'm sorry, David Goldman I see here, but I also see David Brown. So David, I'm saying you don't have to wait till the book's out to start doing some Zoominars. In fact, I advise it that you're doing Zooms calls on the book that you're writing. I'm writing a book right now called Rainmaker Confidential. It'll come out next year. I've been interviewing rainmakers at very successful professional service firms, ad agencies and HR consultancies and tech firms, and getting their best advice on how they're pivoting during the pandemic or how they're still making it rain despite not being able to do face-to-face calls and things of this nature, coming out with a book. Well, it's allowed me to have like 12 people on a roundtable call that I'm going to record and put the call up on YouTube. Now, I get to tell them I'm also going to write about it in Forbes.com, so I've got that going for me. But it's a way to get feedback and information, and I've also been doing Zoom calls where I record them and I say, with their permission, a VP of LinkedIn, could I post this on the internet? And I get that kind of permission. So there's all those things you can do. Okay, so we're going to close out now the small scale seminar, Zoominar, LinkedIn to fill the room strategy. And let's go to the next one. Podcasts. There are only 1 million podcasts on Apple right now. So podcasts are exploding and growing. People ask me all the time, should I do a podcast? And I'm a contrarian on this. My answer is no. What you should do is spend the time and energy in getting booked as a guest on other people's podcasts. If you're creating a podcast and it's weekly and you're creating an audience and you're building an audience, you're spending all this energy to try to talk to the same people over and over again. What you want to do is, and then you have to change your talk. So you have to have something new and you have to have guests, and you're creating this new content. It's a hamster wheel. It's a hamster wheel. Some people do it very well, but it's a hamster wheel. Get off the hamster wheel and get on other people's programs. They spend the time building up the audience, and you're the person who solves a problem for them by coming on, talking about it, and being interesting, excuse me. Let me tell you how you get on a podcast. There's some steps. Step one is identify a list of podcasts that you'd like to be on. It's a little homework. A lot of it can be done on LinkedIn, but there's some other homework and there's directories. Find podcasts that are suspects for you. And then actually listen to the podcast. Note the episode number. Note what they were talking about, what you liked about it. Then reach out and contact the podcaster and say, "Dear Steve," actually it's Stephen, "Dear Stephen, I really enjoyed episode 247 of Onward Nation. Your interview with Michael Haig and storytelling concepts was brilliant. I can really use that. I'm the author of the upcoming book," or "I'm the author of the book," and you fill that in there. "And here's what I could share with your podcast listeners. If you would like to book me as a guest, that would be great." It's pretty short email. But psychologically, what did it do? One, you're unlike everybody else who just bombards them, have no idea who they are. I get, hundreds of emails a week from people who have never read my Forbes.com column. But they know I write a Forbes.com column, so they write me this long email about this topic and would I want to book them to talk and interview and feature them in Forbes.com. And I answer every email to the best of my ability. So a lot of them is just a no thanks. So at least tell them no thanks. I've received one email in the last 2 years that said, "Would you tell me what you write about and what you're looking for? And then I'll see if I have something for you." I thought, well, that's a lot better than the other approach. And I did respond to that person and we had some exchange. The people who say, "I really enjoyed your article on blank. I liked how you did blank. And here's an idea for my article." They have my full attention because I'm a human being. I have ego, and I'd like to know that I'm not just some name on a list to them. So use this strategy to get booked. I try to get booked on 2 podcasts a month, and I get clients from going on podcasts. One of the things we do on podcasts to get sales is the same thing we advise you when you do a small scale seminar. Offer a no cost strategy call. As Devin said, we call ours a book chat. So this is an honest offer to you, but I want you to write 4 words down. I'm going to give you 4 magic words. Not "I know a guy." These are different 4 magic words. The first magic word is goal. The second magic word is asset. The third magic word is roadblock. And the fourth magic word is others. So on your strategy call, that's your agenda. You're going to help them get clarity around their goal. When I help people with a book, I'm helping them get clarity around what is the book going to do for you. I don't mean what is it going to do for the audience, for the reader. What's it going to do for David Goldman in a year from now, 3 years from now? Susan, what is that book going to do that makes your business different than it is now? So it helps to be clear on it. If somebody says to me during the call, "I want to make $1 million from book sales," I know this is not a good fit, because I teach that the result, the money, which I've helped people make $1 million, but they made it as a result of the book, from consulting opportunities, training, speaking. Manly Feinberg and other people who are a person who is actually a mountain climber, who actually his book is about climbing mountains, but it's the metaphor for business. went from 7,500 a speech to 15,000 after his book came out. I don't take full credit for that, but I was part of the effort to make that happen. So what happened? What's the goal? 2, what assets do you have to get it done? I don't mean money. I mean, in my world, intellectual property assets. What have they tried? I'm unlike Sandler sales training in that I don't want to make people feel pain right away and get them to reveal what they've tried that failed. I don't want to get people in that mindset. I want to give them credit for what they've done. People are smart. They've tried things. Okay, let's talk about that. Sometimes I tell them they have hidden assets that they don't realize that can be used for this, and I help bring that out. 3 is roadblocks. What are the roadblocks in your way from your goal? Now, a roadblock doesn't stop you. It slows you down. You've got to get around it, over it, under it, past it. So what are the roadblocks? And I have found people are intimately aware of their roadblocks. And then 4th, I ask them, would you like to know how others have gotten from where you are to where you want to go? And people invariably say yes. And that's where I need your storytelling supercomputer to click in, because you need to say, oh, well, that story reminds me of the Bill Wooditch story. And you can tell them the Bill Wooditch story. Or you might say, oh, that sounds like Michael Haig. Those are 2 males. We've got the Penny Reed story that we tell. In fact, recently I've been recording 10 of my authors to tell their mess to success stories. And it's not how great we were. We're just part of the effort where we came in. We're the mentor characters in most people's stories. We had the wisdom and experience. We had the advice to give them that helped them got over the hump. But they're the hero. The success that they got. I tell a Penny Reed story where she didn't have money to pay her bills on her kitchen table till now she's making $280,000 a year. I'm going to have to update that story pretty soon because something even better happened to Penny that I'm not at liberty to talk about yet. But it's exciting. That happened as a result of all this. So what stories can you tell the prospect on that call? That can be done in 30 to 45 minutes. People will stop you. They will thank you for what you're doing for them. They can't believe someone's giving them this help without having a string attached or an obligation. Why are you being so generous? You're being generous because people are smart and they can figure out if you are in their best interest. If you are in their best interest, they will hire you. If you're not in their best interest, they'll thank you and move on and you'll go on. But something good will happen even if they don't become a client. They now can say, you want that? I know a guy. You want that? I know someone who does that. I know a person. I know a gal just doesn't have the same ring. And I don't want to do like Guys and Dolls. I know a doll. That sounds like a 50s gangster or something. But it's the same idea, is that you'll build your personal brand and it'll lead people to you. And that's a great thing. So being on podcasts, talking about what you do, being a good guest, you have to have stories to tell. You have to have sound bites. Sound bites are quick ways of describing something or a catchphrase. So one of my sound bites is, if somebody offers you something great, pause 3 seconds for dignity and say, thank you for asking, and then answer the question. Another one of my sound bites is, the #1 marketing tool for a consultant is a book, and the #1 marketing strategy is speaking about the book. Okay, what are yours? You write them down, you prepare them in advance. Let's go to the 4th thing. Point number 4 today is virtual sponsorships and activation. Activation was a marketing word I hadn't heard until February of this year. I was talking to people who were involved in the AT&T Pebble Beach golf tournament and people who spent a lot of money sponsoring that golf tournament. And they talked about activation. And then when I interviewed the Rainmakers, they were talking about virtual sponsorships and what you had to do with activation to get your money's worth. Activation is a way of describing extra things you do with a sponsorship. So we're a sponsor of the Institute of Management Consultants National Conference, ConsultCon 2020. In addition to being a sponsor, I'm also leading a panel. I'm introducing one of the speakers. I do a wrap up on one day. So the exposure I'm getting, and in years past when I've sponsored that event, I've put on a seminar that precedes the event. For other ones, I've done a seminar that follows the conference. So I'm doing something extra with my sponsorship to be involved, to be activated. So it's interesting. This year, the Institute of Management Consultants conference, it's on November 6th and 7th. And if you're interested in details, contact me and I can hook you up with something there. Attendance this year is running 50% over when we had live events. And we've quadrupled the number of sponsors we have. People are paying just to be associated with this event. So I just wanted to say those opportunities are out there and you should consider them. Who's your target rich environment? Who gathers these people? If you can't be with them, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with virtually. Yeah, you should get involved with it on a virtual basis, get some profile, reach out to people. That's what the Rainmakers were saying, is they had to do a good job of, before the conference, contacting people who are prospects and saying, oh, are you going to be at the conference? We're going to be at the conference. And, it's going to be virtual this year. So they were building relationships. There's been a lot out there about pivoting to virtual selling. I look at people like David Brown, and I know that probably makes him laugh. Virtual selling, is selling. And it goes back to the old selling on the telephone. We didn't always get face-to-face with people, but there are certain fundamentals that still apply. And talking about that. Now, that's an opportunity, though, as a sales consultant, to talk about how to pivot or how to do it different in the pandemic. Folks, this is not going away very soon. I'm rooting for a vaccine, and I'm rooting for therapeutics, and I want to be live with people, and yeah, I want to go to a ball game and have a hot dog and Cracker Jacks with people around me. Not going to happen till I feel safe. I'm not going to be booking things at the Marriott anymore until I feel safe. A lot of that's happening. I am not with the people who are saying, oh, well, this changes everything, and people aren't going to go back on the road, and people aren't going to do live events anymore. I don't believe that. I believe, however, there's still going to be room for virtual events and virtual selling and Zoominars as an option as we move forward. So developing those skills, getting better, getting a good camera, getting lighting, microphones, all those things, not wasted effort. So you can get out there. So those are the 4 things. I was inviting people, and I'll look in the chat to see if we have questions from the chat. Yes, David, well, that was a private message, but he said he doesn't even feel safe about the hot dogs. Yeah, if you like hot dogs, don't ask what goes into them. Sometimes it's the same about consulting and marketing. And there were some lucky people who got to go to ball games in Arlington this year. Happy for them. So are there any questions for Devin or for me on what we've been talking about today? Just do it in the chat box. But these are the ways we're seeing consultants can respond during the pandemic. Okay, thanks, David. David Brown has a question. How to deal with a career-focused LinkedIn profile and making an elegant pivot to your authorship focus. So the one question is, does the corporation that I'll leave nameless, but I know who it is, of course, are they okay with you being the author of a book and it being out there that you're the author of a book? So if they are, I would say you add that in that top part of the LinkedIn profile. And for more details on changing LinkedIn profiles, I'm going to turn it over to Devin, if Devin could take that, please.
Yeah, so I would say with LinkedIn, it's not an either or, it's an and. So I think the idea with LinkedIn is that it's, and this is their philosophy too, they feel like it's a living document. They want your profile to be constantly updated and changing and showing that you're doing different things over time. So I would say as adding the author to what you do. Your headline, if it's not customized already, I would definitely customize that so you can show several different areas of focus there. So, you can mention author, speaker, and then whatever your area of expertise is, get some keywords into that section, and kind of think how people search for your topic and what you do. And then they've added several sections now where you can add media. So a sample chapter of your book is in like a PDF of that on your profile is great. There's a place for publications. So once the book is out, you can have a direct link to your book on Amazon from your profile. And then also I would have a video, at least one video on your profile, just a short sample of you speaking or a short introduction to your book topic, something that makes your profile stand out a little bit more, makes it a little bit more dynamic.
And David, as your friend, I'm proud of you that I would have to say you're at one of the big 5 in your industry. You and I might say number 1, but we know Jeff Bezos might argue, or yeah. So, but you're at the big 5, and are they willing to let you speak at conferences? I know you've been a conference speaker for others in the past. Those are just questions. Devin, James asked, what level of LinkedIn do we use and what do we recommend? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, so we have kind of the first level of business paid account. And the reason we need that is so that we don't have a cap on the searches that we can do. So our strategy is based on connecting with people. So once you're connected, you can send unlimited messages. So we're not paying for getting more in-mail messages. We just want the ability to search. With the free one, it caps you at 100 searches. So if you're doing an event, you'll probably hit that 100 cap pretty fast. So that's what we recommend. We have a couple clients that use Salesforce, but we haven't felt it's necessary for us. Our target audience, we're able to find them using the basic filters. So which, include industry, job title, keyword. There's a lot you can do with the basic filters. So unless you have a really, really specific need for Salesforce, I don't usually see enough of a return for that level of LinkedIn. So we usually just recommend the first kind of basic paid business account.
Devin, you said Salesforce, which I agree for us, but were you also meaning Sales Navigator for LinkedIn?
Sorry. That is what I meant.
Yeah.
the LinkedIn Sales Navigator.
Yeah. So yeah, we're not bad mouthing any CRM program or anything like that. Yeah. For our business, and we're doing like 48 books a year. So we don't need a real robust CRM. We're a smaller consultant, so we're piecing together. You didn't ask this question, but now I'm answering it. Nimble, Constant Contact. We're using those for our outreach, and then LinkedIn, and on social media. Facebook is important for our people. Our people like to be on Facebook. For most people, LinkedIn is so great. I mean, LinkedIn and Amazon.com allow us to have a business. I don't know how I would have run this business years ago, But my vision was when we started, we would have this virtual business. I feel like a prophet now. When this whole thing went down, it was the fact that we have 30 people on the team, but only Devin and I were ever physically seeing each other. And we're like the fire department. We live together, we work together, we take turns cooking. Okay, Susan asked a question about how finished the chapters need to be or the articles need to be when you post them on LinkedIn. And I'm going to say the excerpted chapters and articles don't need to be as polished as they will be in the book, because they're either excerpt or from an upcoming book. So they don't have to be your final. If it's helpful information to people, that's great. For me, getting the gig a couple of years ago with Forbes.com, that became better for us than doing LinkedIn. So we started with 0 on LinkedIn, by the way. We've built it up now to, we're over 11,000 from doing these small scale seminars. When we do Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit, Devin, a lot of times will tell the stories of how we started into that from 0 to the 11,000. But the quick number is about you reach out to 200 people to ask them to connect with you. 100 accept, and then you invite the 100 to the event, and 10 to 20 accept, and then half or less show to a Zoominar. We were better at getting people who said they were coming to a live event to actually show up. Numbers were a little better. But overall, I'm thinking 11,000 people got asked a question. Would you like to attend a Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit with Indie Books? So now we're reaping a lot of referrals and benefits from that, of the people going, oh yeah, I've heard of you. I've heard of Indie Books. Yeah, people talk about you. So for you, it might be a personal brand you're building, but each one, what about the other 11,000 who didn't accept us? Well, they got asked to the cocktail party, as my mom used to say. Everybody likes to get invited to the cocktail party. They got some sort of outreach, whether they did it or not. I've had very few belligerent people, by the way. How dare you invite me to an event for free? I was like, a couple of them. Sometimes I've responded. Devin keeps telling me, don't engage, don't engage. What do you call those on the internet? Like the crazy people who respond to your article.
Trolls.
Trolls, yeah, don't respond to the trolls. Okay, well, I see our time is up. I didn't know if there was one last question, or is it really that critical or essential to leverage Facebook, or is a laser focus on LinkedIn sufficient? And that was David Brown. David, for consultants, I've just found they love Facebook. And the ones who read my books and read my articles reach out to me on Facebook and want me to be Facebook friends, which is different than a friend who will loan you money or take you to the airport. You're one of those friends, David. So David Goldman, maybe I could borrow money, but not get on a ride to the airport. So a Facebook friend, that's fine. So I don't spend too much time on it, but I post different things that we're doing. And, so there've been some baseball stuff, of course, this week. And sometimes when I used to travel, I would always post funny stories that would happen when I'm traveling. But it's just to remind them that I exist. That's what Patricia Fripp, past president of the National Speakers Association, taught me. It's not their job to remember you, Henry. It's your job to remind them that you exist. Well, thanks everybody for coming today. Glad you enjoyed it, and look forward. Oh, thank you. The jazz hands applause. I appreciate it. And if you would like a strategy call with me, just reach out and we'll schedule one when it's convenient for you. Thanks, everybody.